Now to the heated debate over law and order. Should we spend billions on building new prisons or make bail easier for criminals? It's not a simple answer.
We wanted to look at the whole of the criminal justice system in its entirety. One of the things that we found is that it's not really a system.
Almost a decade ago, this street was filled with thousands of Melburnians angered by the death of Jill Meagher. She'd been raped and murdered by a monster who was out on parole. Following a public outcry, parole laws were strengthened, but now a radical plan to wind them back.
Jill Meagher wasn't the only woman who lost her life because of a broken system.
Along with the murder of Jill Meagher, two of the attacks occurred while he was on parole.
For breaching an order days after he killed schoolgirl Masa Vukotic.
It's all about letting people out earlier.
And what do you think about that?
Well, again, my daughter's killer was let out early and she's dead.
We let victims of crime down, but most importantly, we let the community down.
Victorian politician Fiona Patten is leading a charge to overhaul the system.
We are spending billions of dollars building more prisons, but we're not reducing crime.
The leader of Victoria's Reason Party chaired an inquiry that's just made 100 recommendations to the Victorian government.
We are just housing people and then sending them out at the other end, hoping that we'll get a better result, and we don't.
Among the recommendations, making bail easier to get for less serious offences, swapping short prison stints for home detention and community orders, and perhaps most controversially, automatically granting parole to criminals sentenced to less than 5 years prison and allowing the parole board to let criminals free when they've been unable to complete certain pre-release programs.
When we are talking about violent offenders or people who have been charged with sex offences, then the bar should be very, very high.
Since laws were tightened, Victoria's prison population has ballooned by almost 60% in the decade to 2020. It costs us $117,000 to house a single prisoner for a year. 90%
of women who enter the prison system have not been sentenced. They have not been heard in court. And that is a travesty.
The Justice Inquiry, in my view, it was an inquiry that took place, so you didn't have to have a real inquiry.
If there's anyone who knows how badly laws can fail, it's lawyer John Heron. His 25-year-old daughter Courtney was killed by a man who'd been freed from prison early after trying to strangle another woman. Despite being homeless, Henry Hammond was released on a community corrections order. He began taking heroin.
The government, the Andrews government, doesn't want a lens on the disaster that is the justice system. But if you tick a box that you've had an inquiry, then it all goes away.
So for every person that we send to prison for a short sentence, we could provide 13 corrections orders. Prison is expensive and, as we say, doesn't work. It doesn't prevent crime.
It's just not factually correct to say that they get out earlier and they're monitored. They're not monitored.
But also how to limit the lifetime of suffering for those victims and survivors.
Tanya Maxwell from Darren Hinch's Justice Party initiated the inquiry.
It is absolutely imperative that the government looks at those early intervention and primary prevention strategies that are throughout this whole report. They need to be implemented and evaluated prior to us loosening any sort of bail laws for any offending.
GPS tracking of stalkers and family violence perpetrators is another idea gaining momentum.
It's not just for Courtney, it's all the other people that come to me, like they don't have anywhere to go.
The Victorian government says it will carefully consider each recommendation in the report.